Right then, yesterday I posted a picture of when I was in The Firm, which was a football hooligan film, filmed, I can't remember what it was, late 80s with Gary Oldman. And somebody wrote and asked me, was I ever a football hooligan? And the straight answer really is no. And the reason being is that I came from a town called High Wycombe, which is west of London. And up that way we really had no team. Wycombe Wanderers was a Vauxhall Conference non-league side, so we never really had a firm. So all the football hooligans in my town went into London, mainly Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, North and West London teams, because we were West, so that was their teams. And you tended to either support your local team or what your dad supported, and my dad supported Luton Town, which were equally as bad as Wycombe really. And my earliest memory of football hooligans was on the telly. You know, you had Man United and Chelsea were the first two I remember being put on the news. But in the 70s, and I can't remember exactly what year, but I was up there with my dad, and Luton were playing Bristol Rovers, and the whole place just went off big time. I remember the hooligans where we were, the whole behind the goal just all went down, and they went across the pitch and they picked up the fence. They'd undone the fence and charged that across, and then there was these lads came in from the sides dressed in butcher's coats, and I thought they were stewards at first, but I think they were other hooligans, and they poled in, and they were more worse than both the ends. They were coming in from the sides, and it was just kicking off. And I remember my dad going, bloody yobs, ruining football. But to me it was like the most exciting thing, and it was way more exciting than the actual game of football. And from that on I thought, I really want to be a football hooligan. And so I got my hair cut, and it was we used to call it a hedgehog, so my hair was spiky on top and sort of long at the sides, and it was a little bit like the German mullet that they have now. But yeah, that was the sort of football hooligan cut of the time, of flared trousers and boot boy stuff, the scarf from the wrist and all this sort of stuff. That was how they all dressed back then. And then as I grew older, you know, we became skinheads in 78, 79 time, and you know, there was still a sort of football hooligan thing going on then, but the hooligans quickly moved on from the skinhead image by about 81, because basically they were too well known by police, so they would be stopped and searched all the time. So they decided what they're going to do is go in anonymous. So they would go off robbing clothing, and they go for posh stuff. So they go for like golfing stuff and ski wear, and sort of Lacoste was a label they were using at the time, and you know, sort of Ticini and Italian sort of ski wear and all this sort of stuff, you know. And so the idea was, you know, get in anonymously, and then once they're in there, have a good scrap. The old bill wouldn't know who they were because they all looked differently. But it very quickly became a uniform of its own. And so anyone wearing Lacostes, or nowadays it's Stone Island, back then it was oh god, there was a whole bunch of Burberry was one, and all sorts of different labels they were wearing. And anyone wearing Burberry, a young bloke, was a football hooligan. Nowadays they're not real football hooligans, but they wear the Stone Island stuff and play the part. Because basically when Hazel Stadium happened in the late 80s, I remember being in the pub watching it, and it was kicking off at Hazel Stadium, and people got killed. And Margaret Thatcher got involved then, and she said, right, end of football hooliganism. And by 89, which was a couple of years I think after that, ecstasy flooded Britain, and that was the end of football hooligans. But you know, I remember it coming to Wycombe. We had the only time it ever happened in Wycombe was basically in a cup game, because in the FA Cup, in the early stages of the tournament, the young team, the sort of non-league teams get to play. And as they win a couple of games, so the bigger teams would come. And I remember mid-80s, I think it was Chelmsford or Colchester came to town, and they were like West Ham, but in a lower league Essex team. So they all came down, it all kicked off big time. We were scrapping all over the place. It was fantastic fun, running around town, old Bill, and you know, hooligans and fighting. It was great fun. But I avoided becoming a proper hooligan, because I remember talking to a mate of mine called Stuart Merchant, and he was a big Chelsea boy, and he was one of our well-known, you know, one of the hardest guys in town, and I really looked up to him. First time I ever met him, he was hanging from a lamppost. He'd been arrested for fighting at this fairground up in Beaconsfield, and where all the local teams used to go. So all the local areas would go and have a good scrap. We used to go up there all the time, and he'd been nicked up there. And I remember becoming a good friend of his, and him telling me, whatever you do, stay away from football, because you get big fines, you get big jails, you get on their register, and you'll be on you all the time. So just stay away from it. If you want to scrap, there's plenty of scraps going on in the local pubs all the time, and in the skinhead scene we was always at it, so it was never my thing. But in about 83, 82, 83, we just, or it might have been 81, I can't remember, but we went into London. We were going to get tattoos. We wanted to get a palm tattoo. This was a skinhead thing at the time, but we wanted to do it as a bit of a Blood Brothers thing. So 5 of us had got it done locally by this rockabilly bloke, but it had worn out, so I didn't do it properly, so the ink came out. So we decided, 3 of us, we're going to go into London and go down to Rick's at the Elephant and Castle, which was the main sort of skinhead tattooist at the time, and get these tattoos done again. So we go down there, we're walking through the shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon. Now, I don't know why we done it, because we always knew you avoid the tubes and places like Euston on between 12 and 3 and after 5, because that's when all the hooligans are coming through. In Euston, all the northern clubs are coming to Euston, and so you stayed well clear of there, because they were looking for cockneys. So if you was 2 or 3 on a go, you had no chance, because they would be mobbed up. There'd always be a couple of hundred of them, and so you stayed away. You're all right in the tourist areas, you know, like Carnaby Street, them sort of places, never any problems. Up Camden, very rarely. But places like the East End, sort of south of the river, the places out of the centre is where the trouble to go. And this day we decided to go down to the Elephant and Castle. Now the Elephant and Castle is notorious. It's South London, and their big team, that's one of their meeting areas, so didn't think nothing of it. Walking down through the shopping centre, and all these lads come around us, and they're all casual soul boys, you know, all the wedge haircuts and stuff, and they're fucking all around us. And I said to my mate, just fucking, no, look at the floor, don't fucking look at them. And they're going, skinhead, skinhead, skinheads, and I could hear them. And anyway, we're walking through, no problem, got to the tattoo shop, and got the tattoos done. This guy Rick, he got the needle out, just went zzz, in my hand, zzz, in my mate, zzz, in the same needle, same thing, bomb, job done, £1 each, off you go. So we probably in there 10 minutes. Anyway, we turn around, come back out, forgot all about these hooligans, because it was no big deal. It's just, that was just London in them days. Walked down through the, got onto the tube station. As we walk in, fuck, the fucking train's been held in, and it is full of fucking hooligans, full of them. You can tell straight away, there they all were. But we were in too deep. They'd come out and they got in behind us. And I thought, fuck, we got nowhere to go. And then of course they all come in and they just piled into us. And I remember Stuart was in front of me and Richard was beside me. They whacked Stuart, whacked Richard, and fucking piled onto me. So I've jumped up onto this seat on the side of the tube, and I'm fucking holding there, taking the kicks and punches, thinking, well, there's nothing I can do, there's fucking way too many of them. So I thought I'd just take a kicking. But then I thought to myself, we'd had a big scrap a week before, and this guy had been fucking hammered. And we'd seen him that morning, and his face looked like he'd been in a car accident, and I thought to myself, there's no way I am going to end up like that guy. So I just fucking jumped up, and as I did it, there was a guy in mid-flight, never forget, he had a wedge haircut and a blue suit jacket on, and he's in fucking mid-flight like that with a fist. And as he goes to punch me, I swung round and he clipped me on the back of on the side of the head like that. And in the same process, as he's hit me, I've sort of swung round, I went BAM! And I gave him one, and he fucking went over. And as he's gone over, I jumped off the seat onto this guy and just ran over him. And as I run over him, I'm darting in between all the other hooligans. And, you know, it's loads of them, so they didn't know, you know, whatever. And I shot through them all, got to the other end, and mate Stuart was standing around the corner like this, holding his chaw. And I just grabbed him by the collar, and we ran up the escalator. And as we were running up the stairs, there's all just normal people. And we're grabbing their bags and throwing their bags back at the hooligans who were chasing us. And then we started pushing people out and just run like fuck. Got to the top and away. And in them days, there was before mobile phones and everything, so we used to get back to Marylebone. If ever we got split up, any trouble, we'd go back to Marylebone, and that's where we'd re-meet, because, you know, that was our meeting point. So me and Stuart go back, no Richard, and we're thinking, where's Richard? And Richard was the sort of guy, he would never back down from a fight. He was only a little bloke, but he would never back down. And I thought, if he's taken on that lot, he's not here. They'd have sliced him or whatever, because they were full on. And anyway, 10 minutes later, he comes marching along the platform. Nothing wrong with him. We went, Rich, what happened? He went, oh, well, I ran the other way. And he's gone the other way, and there was a guard, a black guy that worked for the underground, and he's pulled him into this lift. It's like one of them cage lifts, and he's slung the door across, and as he's done it, these hooligans are poking Stanley blades in through the netting, like fucking trying to stripe him up. And Richard's standing back with this guy and got away with it. So that was the end of that. And so to be honest, I didn't really like football, for one, because my dad put me right off it. And number two, I never really rated football hooligans because they were always mobbed up. There was always hundreds of them, and the only ones really doing the fighting would be the guys at the front and the guys at the back. They were like what they used to call the top dogs. So there would just be these mobs, and all the ones in the middle would all be like fodder, and their idea was running up and down the road and jumping, pogoing in the street and giving all this and all that, you know. And I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And the fact was, you know, you're going to go to football, you're going to spend a fortune going up there by train, a ticket, stand for 90 minutes, then run around London all the time with the risk of getting arrested. Very little fighting actually going on. They all built themselves up as being the big mob, but it was just never really my thing. And I mean, there was one band really that in the skinhead scene that really pushed the football, and that was Cockney Rejects, and a brilliant band, and they had War on the Terraces, which was a classic track, and that attracted quite a lot of skinheads to follow football as such, and West Ham became the sort of notorious sort of name within the skinhead world because of the Rejects. Then you had Foreskins as well, I think, were West Ham, and so were Cock Sparrow, and funnily enough Mickey Fitz in the Business, although South London, was apparently a West Ham fan, which was quite strange. I knew Mickey, good guy, but always baffled me that one. I always thought it was Crystal Palace, but there you go, he was West Ham. And so in skinhead history, they've become known as the big skinhead football supporting club. But really, I remember going down to West Ham in the mid-80s, and I was really into being a skinhead, you know, and I'd heard, you know, I'd listened to the Rejects and all that, and I was expecting this big skinhead mob to be down there and be part of the whole West Ham. No skinheads there at all. It was, I remember seeing one skinhead behind the goal, and that was it. But what happened is they'd all gone casual, as I said earlier, and so yeah, it wasn't really a thing. And I mean, around London you had lots of firms. You had Millwall, you had Chelsea, you had Tottenham, you had Arsenal. They all had firms. You know, the Arsenal Gooners were pretty ferocious, and you know, they all had firms, and you know, you chose whichever was your area really. And in later times, it's sort of you know, you see all these sort of modern day oi bands all going on about West Ham and all that, and it's like, you weren't there, mate, honestly. So yeah, that's about it really. And what killed hooliganism in England was the same as what killed the skinhead scene really, on the violent side of things, was ecstasy. And after Hazel Stadium, Margaret Thatcher clamped down, and in '89 everyone done ease, and that was the end of that. And now, you know, I think they just write books about it. I don't know if it even goes on anymore, but it's spread across the world. But yeah, that's my story on football hooligans.